Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new Last of Us spoiler review here at Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinnenberg. Today, I am breaking down season 2, episode 5, Feel Her Love, the new episode of HBO's Last of Us. So if you're new to the channel, guys, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. I do movie and TV show reviews, out-of-theater reactions, movie franchise rankings, and every Tuesday, I do a brand new box office breakdown show. So if you're interested in any one of those things, join Max Talks Movies by subscribing and ring that bell so notified when my new videos drop, because I drop videos basically every day here on the channel. Also, please comment down below. What are your thoughts on this new episode of Last of Us? Did you like it? Are you back on board, or did this make you continue to not like the direction of season 2 of Last of Us? I want to hear all your thoughts. If you played the game, if you haven't played the game, in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, guys, please hit that thumbs up button. Helps YouTube recommend my videos to more people. So please hit that thumbs up button. Really, really means a lot. So again, if you're new to the channel, first time watching one of my videos, welcome. But I am someone who has played the video game multiple times, has watched the cutscenes multiple times. This is definitely one of the more connected IPs that I have right now. And at the end of this review, once I'm done my actual spoiler thoughts, I will go down the video game spoiler route to what I think will happen in these final 2 episodes, predictions, thoughts, where they'll leave the season. But just I'll just gonna give a general spoiler review. I'm not even gonna hint at events, future events in that part of the reviews, just so you know, going into this review. So overall, I found this to be a very solid episode. I didn't like it as much as last week's episode on, I guess, an emotional level. And I'll get to a big reason why that wasn't the case towards the end of the TV show spoiler part of this review. But I still had a really good time with Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. Because if definitely for a lot of people, the missing sauce of the last couple weeks has really been this revenge that Ellie is on for Joel. Because the last 2 weeks have been very much focused on building Ellie and Dina up before going back to the revenge part. And a lot of people, and I can definitely see those complaints, said the driving force of the show is just not present. And I felt that for those critics who felt that those people who critique the show maybe had a truth there, I think the show clearly knew that they were going to get back to form, which was bringing back the driving force of the show, which was Ellie's revenge for Joel. And it really brings up once Dina and Ellie begin their journey in this episode, because Dina then explains how, in this episode, how her family died, and you can basically predict, Ellie predicted how it happened, and Dina said, if I had to watch that happen and that person somehow survived, I would live my life trying to get revenge. And they clearly brought the revenge aspect of the show, obviously, really becoming a full force in this episode. And I think it gave the show its best pacing of the entire season. Once Ellie and Dina leave the auditorium, this is a really fast-paced, intense episode. And I absolutely adored the pacing to this episode. Now, we did get another flashback opening scene back with the wolves, back in, whatever it was, 11 years ago, whatever, with Haranahan. I hope I'm saying her name right, played by Alana Ubach, who's talking to Elise Park, who's played by Hettienne Park. And they basically talk about how spores are now in the air. And they did a really good job here with this character of one of the wolves. She sacrificed her son for the greater good. And it just gives the show a different perspective of what Joel did. Not saying one was right, one was wrong, but they're saying that both can be right. Obviously, Joel saving Ellie, for a lot of people out there, and I totally agree, did the right thing. If that's your child, I'm not sure you're just going to let them die and sacrifice for the greater good. But there's also a lot of people out there who disagree with that point and believe in this wolf's choice, which was to basically seal off her son down in that hospital area, and to do it for the greater good, to not let those spores escape and make everyone infected. Both are heroes of their own story. Both did the right thing in their own story. Neither one could be right or wrong depending on your perspective. And I really enjoyed getting that different perspective on such a game, obviously a life-changing event. So the show introduces spores. Now, if you're not familiar with the game, spores were a part of Last of Us right away in the very first game. Now, I was really surprised that they did not introduce spores in season one. It did feel like they really didn't want to introduce spores as another element of the show, but an essential element to the confrontation towards the end of this episode between Nora and Ellie all really also predicates on there being spores. And it kind of felt like they ran out of time and kind of had to kind of throw spores back into the mix. This probably should have been a thing, in my opinion, probably in season one. And obviously, I talked about this in the video game spoilers last week, but in the last week's episode, it's revealed to Dina how Ellie is immune due to a bite. But in the video game, it was due to spores. They both wear gas masks. Characters in the video game wear gas masks with the spores in order to not breathe it in. And when Ellie reveals that she's immune, it's by accident. Her gas mask breaks. Dina can't believe it and realizes that Ellie is immune. So they're bringing spores into the show. I'm happy for it. Wish this was done, obviously, a season ago. But I'm happy we got here in the first place. So we get a really intense action set piece with Ellie and Dina against these infected that are the smart type of infected. Very intense scene where basically Ellie is really about to sacrifice herself for Dina again. And that is when Jesse saves the day. And Jesse brings up that him and Tommy came out to rescue. They split apart and they're going to meet up back at the auditorium. Now, as I said, for weeks now, in the video game, it is Tommy who leaves Jackson first, before Ellie. And Tommy goes on the reckless revenge path that Ellie wanted to go to by herself before Dina came along to help her out. And Jesse is brought in by Maria to bring back everyone back to Jackson, not to kill Abby, but because Tommy is out there by himself and she needs Tommy back in Jackson. So I don't really like the way they are handling Tommy's character at all in the show. Obviously, he has not been in these episodes the last couple of weeks. He was not the first person to leave. They might change it now to a point where Tommy now does go on this revenge path after he split apart from Jesse. We will see. If they do that, might as well, I don't know why they made such a dramatic change to the game by not just having Tommy go off in the first place. But again, we're getting to this part where Jesse saves the day, and they get interrupted. They run away from the wolves. And this is where they run into the Seraphites. Now, they have been really humanizing the Seraphites in the last couple episodes of Last of Us. And I've told people who haven't played the game that they are one of the most terrifying parts of Last of Us Part 2. And people who I talked to who have not played the game were shocked when they heard that because they have been so humanized and kind of victims in these last couple episodes. So yeah, obviously one gets tortured by Isaac. A group of them get just slaughtered by some wolves. And here you hear the whistle and you get very, very nervous. There's an execution scene with another wolf. And the difference, as well as you see between the Seraphites, who are the Scars, as well as the wolves, is in that interrogation scene last week with Isaac, the Seraphite wasn't going to give up anything to Isaac. And Isaac did everything he can to torture scene to get something out of it. Here, the wolf told basically the Scars everything, and the Seraphites still killed him. Different ways of violence and loyalty to each other. Very, very interesting. They go on the run because Dina gets an arrow to her leg. And instead of Ellie running off trying to find them, she sees the hospital and goes on her revenge path. So Ellie, after this, Ellie goes into the hospital and meets up with Nora. They basically do this shot for shot, word for word from the video game, including the part where, it seems like Nora has some regret from the day of, I think she does. I do think everyone involved in that situation regrets making Ellie watch Joel die. But Nora then says a pretty big, thing here, which is that little B word deserved to die. And they really let you sit in that moment in the game. She kind of just rushes into trying to beat her up. Here they let you kind of let Ellie sit in that statement. And then they go on this huge chase scene, very similar to the game, which I really, really enjoyed. And we get this ultimate payoff down at the basement level where there are spores. And Ellie runs into the two people who were talked about in the very opening scene in the flashback, including Elise's son, Leon, who is stuck. And that is where we get the spores. Breathe it in. In 20 minutes, you become infected. And Ellie meets up with Nora at this one scene with the red stuff coming, the red lighting. And Nora says, "You're the one who, you're the immune person." And she continues to ask for Abby. And that's when you don't know what Joel did. And that's when, Ellie says, "I don't really care what Joel done. He didn't deserve that." And then Nora explains what happened, which is that Joel killed everyone that day at the hospital, including the one doctor who can make a cure, and that was Abby's father. And then Ellie says, "I know." So obviously, if you know the game, you understand how Ellie knows this. Obviously, it's leaving up for very much excitement for people who haven't played the game, because I think it's a big twist for people who haven't played the game that Ellie actually knows what happened on that day in the season finale of season 1. And Ellie gets this huge revenge, just like Abby grabbed the golf club to kill Joel. Ellie grabs his pipe. She starts really beating up Nora with this revenge, this sadistic revenge fueling her. And then it takes us to end the episode with a flashback with Ellie and Joel. Now, I will say this. Here's my biggest problem with the actual episode. I think Bella Ramsey is a terrific actor, and they have been really, really strong since season 1. I am not anti-Bella Ramsey at all when I'm saying this. The interactions with Nora, especially the final showdown with Nora in the basement, I just did not think at all it reached the levels of the impact of the video game. And I think it's partly because I didn't completely buy Bella Ramsey as this adult version of Ellie in this moment. I've said this throughout the season. I think Bella Ramsey was very well cast as Ellie in season 1, but there are times in season 2, I just don't buy Bella Ramsey as a more adult version of Ellie. And I think this was the most glaring scene where I just didn't really buy her as this character anymore. In this particular scene, when Ellie is with Dina, I think Bella Ramsey's doing a really good job. The other problem that I said, which isn't Ramsey's fault, is they've made Ellie a lot more interested in violence and have a lot more sadistic side to her. In the game, it's all anger and revenge, which I think they should have done. But giving Ellie this little, kind of giving her a high of going on this violence path, I'm actually not sure that was the right direction to go to. I just want to see anger, fury, and revenge. I don't need to see like sadistic. She kind of likes torturing Nora in the scene. That I don't totally vibe with, both because from a story level and from an acting level, I don't think Bella sells that all the way. So that to me didn't really give as an emotional impact. They are, and that for me was the biggest problem with the episode. Obviously, I'm not liking what they're doing with Tommy whatsoever. That's a broad perspective just from the show and why it didn't hit the highs, I think, of last week or episode 2. I just think the emotional release of Ellie getting revenge on Nora didn't really hit for me in this episode. It hit a lot harder in the video game. I think it did okay in the show. I didn't think it was great. So that's where we leave off. Again, I'm not going to spoil and hint now in this part of the review what happens, because I assume a lot of you guys also don't watch the trailer for next week, not to be spoiled. But I thought it was a very good episode. I'd give it like an 8.2 out of 10, a really good episode of television. I think Last of Us gets a lot of hate for people just because Joel is dead. I think this has still been, I did not like episode 3, but I think the last 2 weeks have been very strong. And I think we're heading down to an excellent last 2 episodes. So this is where I'm going to break things off. If you have not played the video game and you don't want to know what's coming next or any predictions, this is the time to head out. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. And I'm waving my hands because now we're going into video game spoilers, guys. Waving my hands for the last time. Video game spoilers starting now. So we end the episode, before we even get to the end of the episode, we get the scene in the auditorium towards the beginning of the episode with Ellie playing the guitar and playing the song that she plays with that Joel taught her in the video game. She starts to play it and then she stops. That's definitely setting up for a scene probably next week in the flashback episode where Joel teaches Ellie how to play that song. That will come full way. I like that setup a lot. I'm hoping with Jesse and Tommy splitting up, Tommy does go on his revenge path, and that leads to Jesse, Ellie, and Dina wanting to get Tommy back, which then splits Ellie off from Jesse as Jesse goes after Tommy, and Ellie continues this revenge path. Now, based off the ending of this episode and the trailer for next week's episode, it looks like in one single episode, we're going to get all of the flashback scenes with Joel and Ellie. Now, in the video game, they were broken out throughout the entire game. And it seems like they're getting through every single flashback scene from the video game into next week's episode. So we're going to get Joel and Ellie at the museum where she goes in the rocket ship. We're going to get the scene where Ellie realizes what Joel has done. There are a lot of flashback scenes. We're going to probably find out next week what really happened with Eugene. And I think the final episode of the season will be day 3 from Ellie's perspective, which is when Ellie kills Mel and Owen. And then that leads her back to the auditorium. And that is where Abby kills Jesse and points a gun at Tommy's head at Ellie. And I think that will be the cliffhanger ending to this season. And then next season, we will get an entire season from Abby's perspective. So that's how I feel they're going to do this here. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.